So, when you think about the Greek gods, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, you probably picture these all-powerful beings just chilling on Mount Olympus. But have you ever wondered how they actually got there? Let me tell you, it wasn't some quiet, orderly handover of power. Nope. It was a brutal, backstabbing family drama full of rebellion, paranoia, and straight-up war.
I mean, come on, every family's got its issues, right? You've got sibling rivalries, arguments over the holidays. It's just part of the deal.
Now just imagine taking all that regular family drama and scaling it up, way up. Instead of fighting over the TV remote, you're battling for control of the entire universe. And that's exactly where this whole story kicks off. To really understand the Olympians, we have to go back not one, but 2 generations, to the very first cosmic-level feud that basically set the stage for everything that came after.
Okay, so, in the very beginning, you have the primordials. Think of them less as people and more as the literal personifications of the universe itself. The 2 big ones for our story are Gaia, that's Mother Earth, and her partner Uranus, Father Sky. They were the original cosmic power couple. And right away, you see this pattern emerge, this cycle of generational conflict. First, Gaia and Uranus have kids, and those are the Titans. Then, the Titans have kids, and they become the Olympians. And guess what? Each generation is looking at the one before it and thinking, I want your power. This theme is going to define the whole story. So, the first rebellion gets started because Uranus was, frankly, a terrible father. He couldn't stand some of his own children, the one-eyed Cyclopes and the 100-handed Hecatonchires, so he literally buried them deep inside their mother, Gaia. As you can imagine, she was furious, so she went to her youngest Titan son Cronus and helped him rise up, ambush his dad, and seize the throne. But becoming king made Cronus incredibly paranoid. See, there was a prophecy that said he would suffer the same fate, that one of his own sons would overthrow him. To stop this from happening, every single time his wife Rhea had a baby, he would just snatch it and swallow it whole. He did this 5 times. It's just this horrifying cycle, all driven by fear. Well, Rhea just couldn't take it anymore. When the 6th child was born, she decided no more. She came up with a plan. This child wasn't going to be a meal for his father. This child was going to be a king. And this, right here, leads us to the main event. We're talking about a 10-year war that would completely shatter the old order and put the gods we all know and love on top. This was the Titanomachy, the Great Titan War. So Rhea hid her 6th baby, Zeus, on an island and tricked Cronus into swallowing a rock wrapped in a blanket instead. Classic move. Once Zeus was all grown up, he came back and forced his dad to vomit up his 5 siblings, who were now fully grown adults. I mean, can you even imagine that family reunion? All right, so the battle lines are drawn. On one side, you've got Zeus and his newly freed siblings, the future Olympians. And they played it smart, freeing their long-lost uncles, the powerful Cyclopes and Hecatonchires, to fight with them. On the other side, you have Cronus and the rest of the ruling Titans. Now, the Olympians got a serious upgrade here. As a thank you gift, the Cyclops, who were master craftsmen, forged these legendary weapons. They gave Zeus his thunderbolts, Poseidon his sea-shaking trident, and Hades the helm of darkness, which made him invisible. This new arsenal was an absolute game-changer. After a decade of brutal, all-out war, the Olympians finally won. They threw Cronus and the other Titans down into the endless pit of Tartarus. And with the old regime gone, the 3 victorious brothers had a whole world to carve up between them. Zeus, being the leader of the whole rebellion, naturally took the top job. He became king of all the gods, ruler of the sky. But here's a key thing about these gods. They were powerful, but they were far from perfect. Zeus's reign was just as much about his endless affairs and infidelity as it was about his leadership. Next up, Poseidon took charge of the seas, and his personality was every bit as chaotic and stormy as his domain. He was known for having a really nasty, vengeful temper. For instance, when a king broke a promise to him, Poseidon cursed the king's wife to fall in love with a bull, which led to the birth of the Minotaur. Yeah, you really didn't want to get on his bad side. And then there's Hades, who kind of drew the short straw and got the underworld. Now, despite how he's often shown today, he wasn't really a villain. His whole job was to keep the cosmic balance, make sure the dead stayed dead. He was stern, yeah, and kind of gloomy, but he mostly just wanted to be left alone to run his kingdom. It was a grim job, but somebody had to do it. But of course, the world wasn't just run by the 3 brothers. It's time we meet some of the other major players up on Mount Olympus.
because their personalities are just as big and complicated as the king's.
So you have Hera, who is Zeus's sister and, yeah, also his wife. She was the queen of the gods and, in what has to be the biggest irony of all time, the goddess of marriage and family, a job that her own husband seemed to disrespect every single day.
And the fallout from Zeus's behavior usually landed on his kids. Hera's jealousy was absolutely legendary, but you gotta see it as her defending her own power. Since she couldn't really punish her all-powerful husband, she redirected all of that fury, relentlessly going after his lovers and their children. She basically made the hero Hercules' life a living hell from the moment he was born.
Then there's Athena, the goddess of both wisdom and strategy in war. And her birth story is one of the weirdest in all of mythology. She literally sprang, fully grown and wearing armor, right out of Zeus's forehead. I'm guessing that was a pretty bad headache for him.
You can see her wisdom in action during her contest with her uncle Poseidon. They were competing to see who would be the patron god of a new city. Poseidon slammed his trident down and created a saltwater spring, a symbol of sea power and trade. But Athena just quietly planted an olive tree, a gift of food, oil, and wood, a symbol of peace and prosperity. The people chose her practical, life-giving gift, and that's why the city is called Athens to this day.
So we've seen the world of the gods, and it's driven by some very human-like passions and flaws. But where did actual mortals fit into all this? For our final stop, let's head down to Hades' realm to see what the Greeks thought happened after you died.
For a soul to get to its final resting place, there was a whole procedure. First, you had to pay Charon, the ferryman, to get you across the river Styx. That's why people were often buried with a coin. Then you had to sneak past Cerberus, the giant three-headed guard dog. And finally, you stood before the three judges of the dead for your final review.
And based on how you lived your life, your soul was sent to one of three places. If you were a true hero, you went to Elysium, which was basically paradise. If you were truly evil, you were thrown into Tartarus, a pit of eternal torment right alongside the Titans. But what about most people? Well, they ended up in the Asphodel Meadows, just this gray, shadowy, neutral place where you'd spend eternity as a joyless echo of your former self. So from a father's paranoia to a cosmic war to this very organized afterlife, the whole world of the Greek gods was built on conflict and very human feelings. It really makes you wonder, is any great power ever won without a fight?